The students would take a path across the green space so that there was a path worn. And this college administrator, maybe the college president, said, let's just put a sidewalk where they're walking. And that solved, they've been trying to keep them off the grass. He said, let's just put a sidewalk where they're walking. So, sometimes.
So we're back rolling, if you remember, we were wrapping.
I don't.
We were talking about the town to gown.
Town to gown.
And the vision just of.
Just that I have often thought about down the boundaries extending in green spaces. I don't remember what I was talking about specifically, but
Well,
I think we got it. I think.
Yeah, but do you have any other topics or any other things you'd like to visit about, or
let me see.
Things that that you recall, or?
I think of.
But no, there is, in the second phase, they had drawn these nice little curves, and they put it as gravel, and one of the comments I made, I said, well, I guess if you put it as gravel and the students decide to walk someplace else, it's not much to shovel up that road and make another walking lane someplace else.
Yeah, a lot of colleges don't even put out sidewalks until
they find out
where the students are
That's
going.
so smart. It really is smart. I mean, if you're gonna, you're gonna have to fight with them to move. I mean, and they may never, and it's just smart to follow the natural path.
Well, it should be smart people taking the right
Oh.
path.
I don't think there's anything.
We had talked with some of the others about how the board was selected, but you kind of mentioned that, and I think that some of the
It was the
others-
first. That was the first campaign. It was the campaign team. Is who it was. By the way, that the strategy to, and it wasn't new. It's just I wasn't aware of, and I hadn't been doing campaigns but for 3 or 4 years. But we weren't aware that anybody had really made as extensive an effort to actually physically go see and take 2 people, because there's always going to be a question that, there's always going to take 2 people, there's always going to be a question that one of the people can't ask, or if somebody in the audience doesn't like that person, maybe they like that person. But we really tried to fit people, but it was, to my knowledge then, and the most extensive list of groups and organizations and gatherings, and I'm serious, we sent 2 people, at least 2 people, sometimes it's just one, but anyway, tried to send at least 2 people to every organization. But that was the most extensive list of groups and target groups and organizations that I'm aware of, and it was used from that point forward when the Boys and Girls Club had a capital campaign, and it was used from that point forward, and just has evolved into whatever the master list in town is today, I'm sure. But it was also early days of databases and really good data, being able to manage data too.
I have another question, and about just Jody.
But the campaign team, Jody had a real good relationship with the governor. He's had a good relationship with every governor, but he had a good relationship with the governor, and that campaign team became the first appointed board. And they were all willing to. They all had invested time and energy, and they all, they were all happy to do it.
Well, just a little bit about Jody Mahoney and how
sure.
he influenced, the college coming about. And I know you've known him well.
Yeah.
For many years. So.
I did not know Jody and Betty Ann when the branch twig. You don't hear that much anymore. Now, that's a major milestone. You do not hear us referred to as the twig anymore that I'm aware of. I hadn't heard that in a long time. Anyway, Jody Jody legislated the college into existence back in 1975, the 2-year branch, and was very interested in having a community college, a locally controlled, locally governed community college. And Betty Ann taught here. She was one of the first instructors hired, she and Dr. Langston and I think Henry Colberth and others she was among the first instructors hired to teach at the college. So it was a personal and professional and legislative interest to him. I asked him once, I said, why do you spend so much time on education? He said, because that's how we spend, I think at the time, 65% of our budget at the state. That's where we spend the most money. That's where I spend the most time. And he was, as you have heard, and you got to meet him before he died, and he was the education legislator. He knew how the machinations of government, of state legislature and public policy making worked from all levels, and he certainly did lots of other things. But education was his focal point. And when it came time to merge the two schools, and he and I had worked on a couple of things together before, it was just a natural evolution. But Jody has always had this school. This school was his. That's why he let us raise the money for. When I say let us, he wouldn't let his name be put on anything. He didn't think that was. He was doing his job. He had run for office. He was an elected official. And when he retired from the legislature, so many people said, "What can we do? We need to do something special." And I talked to Betty Ann, and we asked Jody. He said, "Would you let us raise money for a scholarship in your name at the college?" We knew that was our best shot at him letting us do anything and giving other people the opportunity from around the state. As you know, there are a lot of people, a lot of companies that donated to the scholarship fund that are not from El Dorado. And so because of his involvement with, and he's responsible for none of us would be here were it not for Jody. I can say that with great certainty. The school wouldn't be here. None of us would be here talking about the last 20 years if it weren't for Jody Mahoney.
I knew he had a lot of influence on.
And I'm so glad you got to meet him and have supper with him that time.
Twice.
Y'all
I just wish I could have picked his brain more.
Really
that was
do.
one thing I told him. I said, please give me any insight you can into the legislature and how it works. And we had some good conversations, but there were just those two chances.
I don't know if there's ever going to be anybody, particularly with term limits, that builds the relationships he had with state agencies. One thing that was wonderful about Jody, personally and professionally, wonderful to work with him, anytime we worked on public policy issues, whether it be education or something to do with his school or anything or other economic development, he always thought about the affected agency or agencies. He knew their director, he knew who answered the phone, he knew them personally, he knew something about their workloads. He always asked, how will this affect the agency? He had people who would be our students in mind. And he believed strongly in considering the workforce and workloads when implementing public policy, asking people. He had tried to avoid unintended consequences as much as possible. But he also had a commitment to people in his county and people in South Arkansas and our ability to improve our lives. My life is certainly the better for having gone to South Ark. I met Ben here. And Ben makes people better just by being around him. He just makes us better because we're associated with him.
That was just laying you up, huh?
Oh, it was just laying you up.
We probably have 3 minutes left on this tape, so if you want.
Well, those are my questions. If you had anything else.
No, but if you do decide there's something else, did y'all you have a copy of this?
I haven't seen that, but I may need a copy of it.
I sent y'all. There's probably
Francis
one.
Probably has
there
it.
probably is.